Good morning and welcome to the seminar. In this seminar, we will be discussing how to seamlessly connect CAD systems with your enterprise PLM to maximize the NPD data value. My name is Dries Doge and I'm the Vice President of Products and Services at DesignState. On this call, you'll also hear Mike Holliday, and Mike is our Director of Engineering Collaboration Services. This is our third webinar in our Go State campaign, in which we're introducing all of DesignState's products that work together with Agile PLM. After the introduction and some slides, Mike will be taking you through demonstrations using the product DesignState. If there's any questions during this webinar, please feel free to type them in on the left-hand side. In the GoToWebinar control panel, you'll see a section called Questions in which you can type your questions itself, and then we will answer them at the end of this webinar. And if we don't have enough time, we'll answer them privately to you. Anybody who is participating in this webinar is eligible to win tickets to a college football game of their choice at the end of the year. Now, the word customization has gotten a bad reputation in the PLM and by extension the enterprise software industry because it's typically associated with expensive, long implementations that also version lock you, meaning you can't upgrade one or more systems because you will break integrations or you will break customization. As a result, the industry has kind of switched away to what they call quick starts or rapid deployments or out-of-the-box configurations. And the net result is that companies don't always unlock the value or capture the value that is stored in their PLM systems. And why is that? Because companies have unique requirements. No companies are the same. They have different systems, they have different products, they have different supply chains, different strategy, and clearly a one-size-fits-all standard configuration does not fit everybody. Think about it as well. How much time are your users spending on cumbersome, repetitive, time-consuming, non-value-adding tasks just because there's a lack of automation in your system? How much effort are you spending in terms of correcting errors, process errors, because there's no process enforcement? And how many data errors are made because of a lack of data validation on data entry in your system? We at DesignState experience this firsthand as well, since we use Agile PLM 2 to manage our implementation products. And for us to unlock the value, we had to customize our PLM system as well. Now, when doing this, we noticed a couple of things. First of all, we consistently ran into the same coding patterns, the same issues, and the same problems managing PXs and versions of PXs in Agile PLM. And as a result, we created, first for internal use, frameworks called like DesignState. The goal for us now is to be able to give you those advantages of the customizations without the drawbacks by developing and then using those frameworks and bringing those frameworks to market instead of just randomly creating PXs. In this webinar, the goal is that we show you how you can really own your PLM system and unlock all the value that's hidden within it. Now, as a company, we've been in business since 1999, helping companies with engineering and their new product introduction activities. Our focus is on three areas: implementation, integration, and data migration. And now on top of that, we've developed technologies and tools like DesignState to help with those. One of the things that makes us unique is that we start with what we call the end result in mind, using an outcomes-based methodology. And we use technology to achieve the outcome, the goal, not technology for technology's sake. The other thing that's unique is what we call our team state approach. When you engage with us, you're not getting one person dedicated to your account, you're getting the whole group assigned to you, which basically means that you get the experts in different areas coming and helping you at different points in time during implementation. And our people are compensated to work together so that you basically get everybody's expertise at the right time in different areas. In a way, you get more brain power per engagement or brain per buck if you want. Now, which products do we have at this point in time? We have a product called AttributeState, which is in essence a way to help you create process extensions within a much more scripting way. There is RESTState, which is a wrapper around the Java API in Agile to allow you to communicate with Agile via REST interfaces, which is a much more modern way of talking to your systems or between your systems. The DocState, which is a PLM report generator, it's basically generating reports, taking data, putting them in templates, formatting them, and so forth. We have LoadState, which is a compliance accelerator tool that takes compliance information, validates it, checks it, corrects it, and then pushes it into Agile for compliance rollups. Then we have DescriptionState, which is a tool to generate descriptions of attributes against, for instance, parts. RevState, which is a tool to enforce revision schemas based on, for instance, part life cycles. And then DesignState, which is the topic of this seminar, which is basically an integration framework to bring CAD to a set of use cases, if you want to support a set of use cases that bring CAD information into your PLM system. Now, how do all these things relate to each other? If you look at this whole stack, you have the bottom layer, which has AttributeState, RESTState, and DocState. These are really frameworks, low-level sets of capabilities that come with starter configurations to give you an opinion, but that are then customized to whatever solution you are looking for, and that's when you then get a custom solution. Now, we use also those frameworks and those starter configurations to build some of the other point solutions we have, RESTState, DescriptionState, LoadState, which are then configured and configurable through their own configurations. Using the frameworks and the solutions, we then implement entire business processes, and this is where DesignState lives. This is where you have then the whole set of use cases in terms of CAD integration, or this is where you have all the configurations, the process extensions, and the capabilities, for instance, from a LoadState to help you with conflict minerals. And this is also where a tool called Agile Explorer lives, which is a search tool that is more powerful than the built-in searches that exist in Agile. To top everything off, all of this comes, of course, with zero-weight states, knowledge of best practices, our domain expertise. We have people that have expertise in various industries, the experience with PLM implementations. We have done PLM implementations since 1999. Our extensive data migration knowledge between PLM systems, whether it's merging PLM systems, or breaking up PLM systems, or converting data from one system into another. And then our data integration capabilities. This is how everything relates to each other. Now that you get to know us a little bit better, or that you've gotten to know us a little bit better, we'd like to understand a little bit more what our audience is comprised of. And to do this, I'd like to launch a poll. And the first question is, how do you currently manage your CAD data? Select one or more of the following options you have, and some people use Windows folders or directories. Maybe you're using a PDM system like Windchill or ePDM. Maybe you're using Agile engineering collaboration, or there might be other ways. So I'll give you a couple of seconds. Right now we have about 3/4 of the participants that have given us their vote. Still going up a little bit, so I'll give you a little bit more time. Okay, there we go. So of the 88% of you have given us what you're using. 29% is using Windows folders, so about a third. 71 is using a PDM system, and then 21% of you guys is using Agile EC engineering collaboration. So and nobody is using others. So basically, everybody falls in one of those three buckets at this point in time. Oh, this. Since I've given you an overview of zero wait state. I've given you an overview of our product. Now let's dive a little bit into DesignState, what you can do with that, and then I'll hand it off to Mike to really deep dive into it. So what DesignState can do for you is it can pull part numbers from an Agile PLM system when you're creating parts in your CAD tool. It can publish drawings into Agile. You can use it also to create BOM structures from your CAD model in Agile directly instead of having to type them in. You can keep a synchronization going between attributes in both systems bi-directionally, and then you can tie your design workflow into change processes in your Agile PLM system. With this, I'll give control to Mike to demonstrate some of the DesignState use cases in much more detail than what I've described here. Mike, you're the presenter now.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Just to start right off, I'm going to go ahead and launch our second poll. The question is what is your biggest challenge in getting CAD data into your PLM system? The options are getting part numbers, renaming CAD files, attaching files into PLM, getting an accurate BOM structure, and then other. So if you go ahead and respond to the poll as soon as I launch it. All right, early results are favoring getting an accurate BOM structure. We have a 25% response to attaching files into PLM. An 8% response to renaming CAD files, which is a little surprising to me because I've seen in the past where that was an issue. Starting with, let's say some just descriptive names for the CAD files while you're sandboxing, and then renaming everything in the CAD structure to the part numbers that you use in Agile was an issue. But it looks like that's small on the scale compared to getting accurate BOM structure. Okay, so I will go ahead and close the poll. There's 82% of you have responded, so I think that's a good result. So I want to lay some groundwork. I want to talk a little bit about some DesignState capabilities. We're looking at at the base use cases in a base configuration of DesignState. So everything goes up from here. So these are base use cases, but you can add custom use cases into DesignState to meet your requirements. So in accordance with one of Dries' early slides, you want to be able to use your applications that meet your needs. And so we want to provide you the customizations that allow you to do that, but we want to do it in a way that doesn't rev lock you on specific versions of your software. So as I go through the presentation, I'm also going to be using several different software environments, and I want you to be fully aware of that so that there's no confusion when I go from window to window or talk about one product versus another product. So in the process of integrating engineering into Agile, we're going to involve CAD, we're going to involve PDM, we're going to involve Agile, and of course AutoView and Agile to view the attachments that we send to Agile. And so I will try, as I go through the presentation and demonstration, to make a point of what system I'm in and what function I'm doing in each of these, but I want to make sure that nobody's confused about where I am and which application I'm using at the time. So anyway, the base capabilities of DesignState include initiating new part numbers from Agile. So we send a request to Agile from PDM. For new part numbers, that could be for one part number or multiple part numbers. So we support a multi-select of objects. And we can request multiple part numbers from Agile, and those part numbers are assigned to those objects in your PDM system. Although the response on the poll question for renaming files was low, it still automates that process, so it makes it a lot easier. So anytime you're spending on that right now can be spent doing other things. The next capability I want to highlight is the ability to synchronize object attributes, and it's a bidirectional synchronization. So I can send CAD attributes to Agile. I can send Agile attributes back to CAD, and you'll see that happen in the demonstration. Attaching PLM objects to a change order, right? So we have the ability to, number one, create the change order. Number two, to push to the affected items of that change order from the PDM tool. Right? We'll use DesignState to identify what needs to be on that change order so that it shows up in the affected items. Next is publishing CAD attachments. Not everybody wants to push CAD source files to Agile. Typically, the majority of our customers prefer to send STEP or PDF files as attachments to Agile and leave the source CAD files in the PDM tool. That's not always the case, and DesignState is flexible to allow you to either send CAD source files or derivative files or both as attachments to your Agile objects. You're also able to transfer the CAD BOM structure to Agile, and according to the poll, that was the big ticket item that you're all experiencing is getting a correct BOM structure or representing the CAD structure in the bills of materials in Agile as those structures change. And of course, all of this allows you to tie your design workflow to the enterprise change process without having to give up the tools that you're comfortable with, the tools that were purpose-built for managing your CAD information. So you can tie your design environment into the change process in Agile without having to have a steep learning curve of a new product or giving up the functionality of the tools you use today. And so I also wanted to just give you an idea of the architecture of DesignState. The DesignState product serves as kind of a middleware between Agile and your PDM system. So, and three primary components of DesignState are an event queue, which monitors events in both Agile and your PDM tool so that when those events are captured, activities can be performed by DesignState in one or the other system. There's also a publishing engine so that which is used to pass attributes bidirectionally between the two systems, as well as pass derivative files or source CAD files from the PDM tool into Agile as attachments. And then the last one is a synchronization log that keeps everything happening in the proper order as you make requests of DesignState. Those requests are queued up and synchronized so that they happen in the correct order, as well as the synchronization between Agile and the PDM tool is always kept up to date. And so I'm ready to get into the demonstration part of this, which is probably the part that you all tuned in to see. I just wanted to just lay out the flow of the demonstration today and what you can expect to see. I'm going to wear 3 hats in the demonstration. I'm going to start out as a product manager that has received a request from sales to create a one-off of an existing product. I'm then going to spend the bulk of my time as the design engineer that's executing on this new request for this new product. And I'll finish up as a change analyst that is just reviewing what the engineer has published into Agile. And so in the process of this demonstration, you will see me in AutoView, you'll see me in Agile, you'll see me in CAD, and you'll see me in the PDM tool. So let's go ahead and start the demonstration. So, all right, I'm wearing the product engineer hat. I've received from sales a request for a one-off of an existing product. And that one-off is that I have a customer that needs a version of a product that's a little heavier duty than the one that we sell as a standard. And so this is the product that we're doing the one-off from. And you can see it in Agile. The product said it's released at Rev 2. You can see the bill of material that we have with this product. What I want to do is just from Agile, as a product engineer, I'm going to do a save as on my existing product. I'm going to get a new part number and kind of set this up so that my design engineers can start work with new part numbers to assign to the new products that they design. So I'll change a few attributes here and clean this up so that it's ready for the design engineer to start work. Get rid of a few things that are specific to the original assembly and not necessarily to the new assembly. So now that I've done that, I am ready to pass the ball to my design engineer. So I'm going to switch hats from the product engineer to the design engineer, and I'm going to switch environments to my CAD tool. Now, you're seeing me do this in Creo and Windchill or PDM Link today, but I could be doing this in SolidWorks and Enterprise PDM as well. So this just happened to be the tool that I set the demo up in. So in Creo, I have the original assembly that I want to start with to then start making the modifications for this one-off that I'm going to do. So I'll take this assembly and do a save as. We will give it, we'll name it with the part number that the product engineer just sent to me for this product. And we'll open the new save as copy so you can see that this is my 845 part that I'm working in right now. So the primary thing that I need to do is I need to replace this bearing assembly with a heavier duty bearing assembly. So I am going to replace it with something that I have already in my workspace. So this is the heavy duty bearing assembly. You'll see the icon of a pop-up. So that's the assembly I'm going to use as a replacement for my lighter duty bearing assembly. And I'm just going to redo my assembly constraints. And finalize the replacement. So now I have my new assembly with the new heavy duty bearing components as required for this new product, this new part number. Before I save this and start the link up with Agile, I want to also capture a new step file that I can also send to Agile. So again, I'm going to do a save as, but this time I'm going to do it as a step file. Okay, now that's been created, I'm going to go ahead and save and upload the changes that I've made. And as soon as the upload is complete, I'll switch over to PDM and start using DesignState to link these products up. All right, so now I've jumped from the CAD environment into the PDM tool. Again, I'm still the design engineer, and I'm working in the products that I work with on a day-to-day basis. My CAD tool and my PDM tool are my bread and butter. You know, that's where I work every day. And so the PDM tool that I'm using is Windshield PDM Link. But like I said before, this could be SolidWorks with ePDM as well. And so let me refresh my workspace real quick so that we can see the new product that I just created. This A45 assembly is the one that I just uploaded from CAD. One thing before I check this in is I want to edit my attributes. This is an attribute that I'm going to pass into Agile when I synchronize my attributes. Okay, with that done, I'll go ahead and check this in. And I'll start using DesignState now to link these products together, synchronize the information that I've got captured here in PDM with what I've got in Agile. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link this assembly with the part that I created or that the product engineer created in Agile. So this is going to using DesignState to reach into Agile, find that part number, link these two objects together. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just update the attributes. So, and I'm sending attributes bidirectionally with this process. Not only am I sending that make attribute as product category to Agile, but I'm also grabbing information from Agile and writing it back to my PDM object. Now I also want to send my file attachments. So the step file that I created in CAD, I'm going to send to Agile as an attachment to this to that new Agile part. Okay, so just for the last thing, the update attributes, not only did I send make to Agile, I also got from Agile a link to the Agile object that this is all tied to. So it kind of ties these two objects together so that from from PDM, I can link directly to that object in Agile. There's also on the Agile object, there's a URL that points right back into PDM so that I can get from Agile back to this object. So it makes it real easy to navigate between the two. Next up I'm going to do is start a change order for the release of this new product. And I'm going to update the bill of materials. So I'm taking that, when I did the save as in Agile, of course, when you do that in Agile, the bill of material is the same when you do the save as. And I didn't do anything to edit that bill of materials when I did the save as. I'm using the DesignState tool now to take the changes that I made in CAD and send those structure changes to Agile to update that bill of materials. So with all of this done, you can see that the change order has been populated so that I know in PDM that this product is on a change order. The change order is active, and what you see me do is access all of these functions through an actions menu pick. And so I just wanted to point it out right now. So this is the way we've got this set up for the demonstration, but the functionalities of DesignState can be accessed either through a menu pick or through other types of events that we want to use. So in this case where I'm using PDM link, I could have set up a promotion request, let's say, in PDM link, and certain events in that promotion request in PDM link would just trigger the synchronization of the attributes, the sending of the attachments, update of the bill of materials, and so on, just as events captured in Agile. So you're not tied to one or the other, but you can this can be configured to meet your specific needs. And also you saw me pick one at a time each of these functions. These functions, if it makes logical sense to you, for your environment and for your use cases to group certain functions together, that can be done as well. So what I want to do now is as the design engineer, I've completed what was required of me, right? So I got the request from the product engineer to go ahead and start the design work for this new product that was a one-off from an existing product. I went ahead and made those changes in CAD, saved the changes to my PDM, and then synchronized all this information with Agile. So I'm going to switch hats again, and as the change analyst, I'm going to go ahead and just review what my design engineer has sent into Agile. So I'm going to open up that part in Agile and start to take a look at the information that I've captured in Agile. And so we see that this is the part number, the 845 part number that the product engineer initially created when we started this process. You can see that my make attribute was passed from PDM into Agile. You can see that there's an active change. There's information in the bill of materials. There are attachments on this, all that was set up and sent from PDM into Agile. If I click on the BOM tab, we're looking at the original assembly that was just passed over from the save as. But if I switch to pending Rev 01, we can see that we have a different bill of materials. Right. So this is the structure change that I did, or that the design engineer did in CAD and published into Agile. So of course, if we link to the change order in Agile and look at the affected items, you can see that there's a red line on the bill of materials that happened as a part of this change order when the BOM structure was updated using DesignState. It synced up with this part in Agile through the change order. Now, the sync up can either happen on introductory parts without a change order, or through a change order on anything that has been released, right? So So DesignState doesn't violate any of the rules of Agile, where it's making modifications to already released objects. It would have to happen on a released object. It would have to happen through the context of a change order to be able to update. And so also I just wanted to show the attachment that the step file has been passed over from PDM to Agile as an attachment on this new revision of this A45 part. So as a change analyst, I'm able to use Agile to validate the updates that the engineer made. The design engineer never had to actually log into Agile to make any of these updates. It was all done from the PDM tool, sent into Agile. As a change analyst, Agile is my tool. I can get in here. I can validate all the changes that were made. But the engineer was able to stay in the tools that the engineer was comfortable with, being the CAD system and the PDM tool. So as a change analyst, of course, I can now take the steps to submit this and start the review process on the release of this new part number in the Agile system. But that's the extent of the use case demo that I wanted to show to you today. So I'll go ahead and just jump back to a couple more slides, make sure I get on the right slide. All right, so we saw the flow, we saw the three different roles in the demonstration. I did the save as in Agile. As a product engineer, I did the CAD work and the PDM work. As a design engineer, I did the checking and the submitting of the ECO for review as a change analyst. I worked in CAD, PDM, Agile, and AutoView as part of that process. So you can see how design engineer links together your design process with your change management process in Agile. So I just want to launch one last poll before I hand things back to Dries. And the question on this poll is, what's the biggest impact of having a tight integration between CAD and PLM? And of course, this is for you. This is going to be either based on your experience or on your perception. So if you would, please pick your response. And the responses are multi-select, so you can pick more than one. And so it looks like just preliminary results, we're getting very high numbers on all of the options, the expensive resources, the impact of errors on project deadlines, and the impact of errors on downstream processes because of incorrect information in Agile. So definitely there's a huge impact in having your engineering processes separate from Agile and having to manually link that information together. Those errors and those costs that you experience in that process can be mitigated through a direct integration from your engineering tools to your Agile environment, so that there's no risk or very little risk of not having that information synced up between the two systems. So I'll go ahead and close the poll. In the end, just the results were basically 69% for both the expensive resources and the impact of errors on deadlines, and 75% for the impact on downstream processes. We had 19% for others, so there obviously are other costs and impact to not having these systems linked together. Okay, so I talked when I first got started a little bit about the concept of a base system. So I just wanted to just really quickly specify what that base system is that you would build from with DesignState. We integrate the most used use cases, and this isn't just something that we as an organization thought might be the most used use cases. These are actual experiences with our customers. What were the most requested use cases that were needed to build into this product? By using a base configuration, obviously there's low configuration to get started, which then also gives you a high value, right? Because you're using the most used use cases, very little configuration up front. It makes the implementation very quick. And once you've done the implementation, you're not locked into what you've got. You can build on that implementation, add use cases as you go. You can have a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 that adds more use cases to your DesignState environment. So I am going to go ahead and pass the presentation back to Dries so that he can do a little bit of summary and talk about just a few more things.
Thank you very much, Mike. Before we go to summary, let's answer some of the questions that have come in. One of the questions is, does DesignState work with the SolidWorks PDM system BVWorks?
Sorry, Dries, I was on mute. So we have base configuration set up right now for PDM Link and for Enterprise PDM, which doesn't mean that that's all we can do. We can do this for any PDM system or about any PDM system to Agile. So if you're using something other than Enterprise PDM or PDM Link, then just give us a call and we can talk about what your requirements are and what we can do to meet your needs.
Okay, thank you. And then another question we have is, how do you tackle suppress, bomb, and helper parts?
So the great thing about the way this integration works is that we're working from the PDM tool, and the PDM tool understands the specific CAD functionalities. And we're using the PDM tool to identify what parts are in the bill of material and what parts need to get sent to Agile. So if something is suppressed or not included in a bill of material in CAD, that's represented in the PDM tool. And so the synchronization between the PDM tool and Agile is always accurate.
Okay, if that doesn't answer your question completely, just send us an email. I'll send you the email addresses later, and we can discuss it more. Then there's another question. Can you talk about the most used use cases? What were those use cases?
So I think that's been addressed in the process of the demonstration. The use cases that I showed in the demonstration, the requesting part numbers from Agile or linking to existing part numbers, synchronization of attributes bi-directionally, the publish of attachments, the publish of bills of materials, and the requesting either a change order or linking to an existing change order are the most used use cases. Those are the base use cases that are included in a base implementation of DesignState.
Okay, and then here's another question. In the demo, you showed a change order with the updated pending rev bomb, but we didn't see the red line off of the lightweight bearing. Does this use authoring versus redlining?
That is just a function of the policy that we write for redlining the bill of materials. And so depending on your use case, we can do both removal of components from the bill of material as well as adding new components to the bill of material. It's just a matter of how we set up the policy to do that.
Okay.
Just to add to that, one of the things that I didn't point out as part of the demonstration, but is important to note that a DesignState identifies the published source of all of the bill of material objects. So if you have a complex bill of material that's being sourced from a lot of different environments where mechanical CAD is only part of that bill of material, it could be mechanical CAD, electrical CAD, and items pulled directly from the Agile item master that make up that bill of materials. That published source is important, and DesignState is written so that it understands that it can only affect objects that are identified with a DesignState published source.
Okay, and then here's another question. How do you manage sheet metal parts with flat state?
Okay, so actually that ties into another question that I saw that was in here, and so I'll answer that question first, and then both published as attachments to the Agile object. If you have the other concept where you have a family of parts represented either in a configuration or family table, they're also, every one of those instances is represented as an object in your PDM tool, and every one of those instances can be linked to Agile part numbers, or part numbers can be requested from Agile for each one of those individual instances, and so they would be represented correctly in Agile as well. And then there's one other question that's kind of related to that. It was about helper parts. Helper parts is an Agile engineering collaboration concept where in CAD you have CAD files or objects that are there for the purposes of ease of use in CAD, but should never get part numbers and never show up in a bill of materials in Agile. And I'll use an example. If you have a mechanical assembly with a printed circuit board in it, you know, and you're mechanical engineering, you own all the mechanical part numbers, but electrical engineering owns the part number for the board and all the components on the board. But you still need that board represented in your assembly so that you can check clearances and interferences and fit up and mount points and all that kind of stuff that you do in CAD. Well, again, the great thing about being a direct integration from the PDM tool to Agile is you decide what gets a part number in Agile and what doesn't get a part number in Agile. So you may or may not have noticed that in the assembly that I used, there was a skeleton part in there. And a skeleton part, for those of you that don't use Creo or don't have a history with Creo, a skeleton part is basically a part that is part of an assembly that really only consists of datums. And it's used to mount other objects to that skeleton part, but it doesn't have any of its own geometry, and it should never be represented on a bill of materials. And And in that assembly, as part of the part numbering that I did on the assembly, I just skipped over the skeleton part. It never got a part number in Agile, so it never gets represented in a BOM in Agile. So those topics are all kind of related with configurations, family tables, helper parts, and so on. You know, in the example of the printed circuit board, on the mechanical side, you would never assign a part number from Agile to the, you know, that space claim object that you use as a printed circuit board in your mechanical assembly. And you would leave that to the electrical engineers to go ahead and take care of their part on supplying a number for that board and the components that are on that board.
Okay. Another question is, what are the version compatibility requirements between Agile, the PDM tool, and your CAD tool?
So we don't have a specifically published requirement. You know, to the compatibility level of these products are all, because it is a, you know, kind of a middleware tool. If you happen to have an old version of PDM, an old version of the CAD tool, and you're using with the current version of Agile, or vice versa, we can work with you to make sure that the compatibility exists between the tools that you do have. So it's not necessarily a fixed thing where it's only compatible with these versions. It's just part of the implementation and configuration process that makes it compatible. So if you have something, you know, outside of the last, let's say, 5 versions of each of the tools, just talk to us, and we'll let you know what it would require to make sure that there's compatibility.
Okay. You used a newly created ECO in the demo. Can you use an ECO that's already been created?
Yes. Yeah. So in the same way that I just linked to an existing part number in Agile, I can link to an existing ECO in Agile as well.
Okay. Another question, can I publish CAD parts, assemblies, and drawings instead of the step file?
Yes. Yeah. So the way we've written our published policies for this demonstration instance of DesignState, our policies are that it looks for derivative files. It's a simple change to the configuration on implementation to accept all attached files or specific. So it can be all attached files. It can be specific file types that get published. In this case, we went with a specific file type, and it basically matches a list of all the derivative types that we would accept. If we just change that configuration to specify part assembly and drawing files, then that's what would have gotten published to Agile. Cool.
Now this is one that goes above my level of knowledge. Can you build the Agile to Windchill relationship and connection with WT parts? If so, would the child EPDM document structured in Windchill be attached within Agile?
Okay, I'm going to have to read that again just so I have the question straight in my head.
otherwise, we can contact Karina and answer offline. If you don't have the answer immediately, this goes way beyond what I know as well. Then yes, so we have another question, same vein. While in Windchill, can you request or generate Agile part numbers for WT parts / EPDM documents? So we'll contact you and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about that one and understand your question.
Yeah, but the simple answer to that is, if it's represented as an object in Windchill, then we can link it to an object in Agile. So just like in the case of family tables with the instances, since the instances are all represented as objects in Windchill, I can take each one of those instances and link it to a unique part number in Agile. Same thing with WT parts is, if it's represented as an object in Windchill, then I can link it to an Agile object.
Okay, so we'll follow up with you, Karina, just in case, to make sure that your question's answered, and if not, then you can continue the conversation over email. And then the final question I have here, Mike, is can I assign part numbers to SolidWorks configurations?
Yes, yes. And so SolidWorks configurations, would really follow the same methodology that I've described for family table instances. EPDM represents each one of those configuration objects as an object in EPDM, and so since we can identify each one individually as an object, individually we can link them to a unique part number in Agile.
Okay. Thank you very much for answering all these questions, Mike. I'm going to take over and let you know about our upcoming schedule in terms of seminars and or webinars. So we have already done attribute state, and 2 weeks ago we did rest state, and those webinars are taped and they should be available online if they're not online yet. Then next week we are going to do 2 more webinars on load state, so 11.15 and 11.17, which is the tool to validate and bring compliance information into Agile. And then we'll end with 2 webinars beginning of December for doc state. So if you're interested, please sign up for those webinars. And don't forget, the more of those webinars you attend, the more chances you have to win the college football tickets at the end of the year. With this, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes back in your day, and if there's any questions that we haven't answered or didn't answer satisfactorily, just send us an email. You see the email addresses for myself and for Mike at the bottom of your screen. And otherwise, I'm going to wish you another nice day, and hopefully see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.